Even though the convent is called Sacred Heart Convent, the church is consecrated in honor of the Holy Spirit. The reason is historical. From 1904 to 1914, it was a double convent. The Adoration Sisters and Missionary Sisters each had their own section of the house, with their own main entrance and separate address. The Adoration Sisters wanted the name Holy Spirit Convent. Their house in Klosterstraat still bears that name. Consequently, the Missionary Sisters chose the name Sacred Heart Convent.
Prayer was extremely important to Arnold Janssen, and he had the greatest reverence for holy places. That is why he had the Latin inscription made over the door, Venite adoremus, come, let us worship. On entering the church, our gaze is drawn by the neo-Gothic architecture. Forward to the sanctuary. The powerful high altar and the tabernacle hold our attention. The images on the altar screens express Arnold Janssen's spirituality, as does in fact everything else in the church. Beside the tabernacle, usually hidden by the candles, we read on the left, Spiritus Domini, and on the right, Replevit orbem terrarum, the Spirit of the Lord fills the earth. Beside the tabernacle are two angels, each with a thurible. On the tabernacle doors are two angels in an attitude of prayer, indicating the presence of the Eucharistic Lord. The angel on the left has folded hands. The angel on the right has crossed hands, as a sign of adoration and dedication.
Immediately above the tabernacle is a crucifix, because the altar is meant to remind us of the Lord's Passion as well. The crucifix is standing against a background rich in symbols. Above the cross is a triangle, symbol for the Blessed Trinity. Arnold Janssen saw the entire Trinity present in the incarnate Eucharistic Lord. The top of the cross is surrounded by a golden circle, below which there are two bowls of incense. As the psalm states, our prayer is to rise up to God like incense. Below the incense are wavy lines that represent the oceans. At the top, we see two angel figures, their gaze directed downward towards the crucified Lord. For Arnold Janssen, the angels were extremely important. The large scenes show the action of the Holy Spirit in salvation history. On the left-hand screen we see Mary and the Archangel Gabriel, the Annunciation. Mary's posture indicates commitment. The angel is holding lilies, a symbol of purity, while with the right hand he appears to be blessing Mary. Rays coming from above symbolize the action of the Holy Spirit. The right-hand screen represents the baptism of Jesus by John. The Holy Spirit, in the form of a dove, hovers above them. John's staff has the form of a cross, again a reminder of the Passion of Jesus. The central picture of the high altar represents Pentecost, the outpouring of the Spirit on the apostles as they gather around Mary. The Holy Spirit is represented symbolically by a large aureole and 7 tongues of fire. Mary, in prayer, is the central figure. She is seated on a kind of throne, one foot resting on a footstool. Mary is a queen. High above everything else is a majestic figure of Archangel Michael. This archangel had a special significance for Arnold Jansen. He dedicated his first foundation to Saint Michael. The angels are God's messengers, serving the work of redemption. Arnold Jansen regarded them as models for his missionaries, and, at the same time, the protectors of the missionaries. Above the other images there are 4 angels, with instruments of the Passion. From left to right, the pillar of the scourging, the crown of thorns, Veronica's veil, and the cross.
The base of the high altar is hidden by the altar of the Eucharistic celebration. There are 3 biblical images of sacrifice on the base. In the center is a sacrificial lamb, symbol of Christ, the risen Lord, who has conquered death and brought salvation to the world. His triumphal banner is the cross. 7 streams flow from the rock on which the lamb is standing. They represent the 7 sacraments, the source of grace.
On the left is the encounter between Abraham and the high priest Melchizedek. Melchizedek is offering bread and wine to the Most High God, a foreshadowing of the Eucharist. Abraham is kneeling, while Melchizedek is standing with the chalice in his hand. With his right hand he is blessing Abraham. On the right there is an image of Abraham's sacrifice. Isaac, his only son, is lying on the altar. Abraham's left hand is on his head. His right hand is raised to perform the sacrifice. The angel of the Lord appears, takes hold of Abraham's arm, and stops him from killing his son.
The large altar used for the daily Eucharist rather hides these images. This altar was introduced into the Church in 1967 in response to the liturgical renewal of Vatican II. It is in the center of the sanctuary, beneath a symbol of the Trinity. This symbol was only painted in the 70s. The 3 overlapping rings symbolize the inseparable unity of the 3 divine persons. Although devotion to the Holy Spirit is a significant part of our spirituality and of Arnold Jansen's spirituality, basically the spirituality is Trinitarian. Also in the sanctuary we have the lectern and the Paschal candle. The delicately carved lectern was formerly part of the communion rail. More carvings on the candle stand show the mysteries of our redemption: crucifixion, resurrection, and the descent of the Holy Spirit.
The sanctuary windows also recall the mysteries of salvation in the manner in which St. Arnold Jansen loved. These windows were almost completely destroyed during World War II. In 1947, Brother Walter Drottin, SVD, offered to restore the windows in their original form. He had worked as an apprentice in the Mission House glass workshop when the windows were being made at the behest of Arnold Jansen. The window on the left is a scene from the legend of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Joachim and Anne took their child to the temple. The Temple of Jerusalem is visible in the background. Mary is the new temple, the Ark of the New Covenant. The Feast of the Presentation of Mary is now celebrated as Memorial of Our Lady in Jerusalem. At the bottom of the window, inscribed in Latin, are the words, "The Holy Parents offered the Blessed Virgin Mary to God. Sancti Parentes Beata Mariam Virgine Deo obtuleret." In the small windows above the main picture, we read in Latin, "Quasi oliva in campis," like an olive tree in the field. And on the right, "Quasi platanus juxta aquam," like a tree planted by the water.
The central window is rather special. It depicts the Blessed Trinity in salvation history, namely the mystery of the Nativity. God's Son enters this world. Above the scene is a representation of God the Father with a dove, symbol of the Holy Spirit before him. Rays of light radiate from them. Beside Mary, Saint Joseph is seated with a lily at his side. On the left, an angel is playing music. The infant is lying on a lace-trimmed cloth on which is embroidered, "Veni ad me," come to me.
The window on the right shows the three magi from the Orient on their way to the newborn King of the Jews. As seekers and as the first non-Jews to go to Jesus, the Magi are a special model for us. For St. Arnold Jansen, January 6th, Feast of the Epiphany, was a missionary feast. Here, the Magi are depicted as kings. The Latin text at the bottom of the window means they offered gold, frankincense, and myrrh to God the Lord. The king in the middle is carrying his gift himself, a golden vessel. The other two each have a servant to bear the gifts. On the left above them is an angel showing them the way. The star is shown in the central part of the window, and above that the symbols of the gifts are depicted once again. In the small windows at the top is the Latin for prayer, kingly power, for death.
Arnold Jansen gave his Society of the Divine Word and also the sisters several patron saints, corresponding to the religiosity of the 19th century. As in St. Michael's Mission House, the patron saints are represented in the nave of the church. They are in pairs. The first window on the left of the nave shows the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. In the next window we have St. Joseph with the infant Jesus in his arms and the Archangel Gabriel. Both figures are holding a lily, the symbol of purity. Long before the missionary sisters were founded, there was some thought of dedicating the sisters' congregation to the Archangel Gabriel. As the messenger proclaiming the Incarnation, Gabriel was an important figure for Arnold Jansen.
Pope Gregory the Great was important in church music. Gregorian chant was named after him. This pope was also the patron saint of the teacher's training course established by Arnold Jansen to prepare sisters as teachers for the missions. The dove image on his shoulder is a symbol of the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. Beside St. Gregory is the Apostle St. Andrew, as representative of those who proclaim the faith. He can be recognized by the St. Andrew's cross. St. Vincent de Paul, Apostle of the Poor, and St. Francis Xavier, the great missionary to Asia, were recommended as patrons to the sisters. Arnold Jansen asked the first sisters to choose 7 women patron saints who were each to stand for a gift of the Holy Spirit. Thus we have
Catherine of Alexandria, a martyr for wisdom. Scholastica, sister of Saint Benedict, for understanding. Hildegard of Bingen, for counsel. Mary of Magdala, for fortitude. Teresa of Avila, for knowledge. Gertrude the Great, for piety. She was not an abbess. The crosier is an error. Saint Cecilia, for fear of the Lord. As the windows are in pairs, there had to be an eighth image. As final saint, therefore, we have Saint Walburga, sister of Saint Boniface, an apostle to the Germans.
The statue of Christ was modeled according to the Riemenschneider school, carved in a marauder atelier in the Italian Tyrol. The Blessed Virgin also according to the Riemenschneider school, carved in the marauder atelier in the Italian Tyrol. Saint Joseph always was, and still is, an important patron saint for our sisters. He is also protector of the Church.